As many of you know, we have travel restrictions between Canada and the US. So in our multi-districts that are multinational, we have issues with trying to have a program there. Currently in the United States, I live in South Bend, Indiana, which is north, just close to the Michigan border. I'm an hour and a half from downtown Chicago. And at the moment, we're not allowed to go to Illinois or Chicago with the chance of getting a large fine. So at this point, you know, we have to look at the travel and whether or not schools are going to accept students.
Okay. All right. Martine, have you set up criteria as to whether or not you will move ahead with an exchange?
Sí, definitivamente nosotros vamos a depender de las circunstancias.
Definitely, for us, we're gonna see how the circumstances are going at the time we start with the exchanges.
En cuanto a los países, cómo nos van a ir abriendo, dependiendo su circunstancia sanitaria, cómo nos van a ir abriendo para tener espacios.
Well, it depends on the countries we're going to work with the next year. We're gonna see the circumstances that right now, how we're gonna work to and how we're gonna get through it.
Nosotros como distrito vamos a estar preparados, nosotros. Nuestro país, aunque tiene, igual que ustedes, igual que otros países, tienen las medidas para contener, ¿sí? Para contener los contagios, mas sin embargo, ahorita no estamos en condiciones porque tenemos escuelas cerradas. Sí, tenemos escuelas cerradas. Los países, los de ustedes, posiblemente no tengamos visas, ¿de acuerdo? Entonces, vamos a estar preparados con lo que nos corresponda. Entonces, ¿de qué va a depender? ¿De qué va a depender esto? Bueno, mucho de cómo se vaya a ir bajando el nivel de contagio. Ojalá que haya una vacuna ya. Y que estemos en condiciones de agosto del año que entra, ¿sí? Poder enviar estudiantes y recibir estudiantes.
Okay. As a country, that we start working and we are prepared. But the thing is, we need to check about schools, how they're gonna get, how we're gonna get the guarantee forms, and also see the visas right now are the huge problem, you know, because we cannot send. You know, our work is gonna get as long as the other countries, you know, have the sanitary control, but we are management, everything to get, and we hope for next August to get and start working. We hope that they have the vacuum already so we can start and keep working, you know, as the program. But it depends of the other countries and also, but here we are working and we will still working with the best, of course, getting from guarantee by Rotary.
Okay. All right. Bob, what about California?
You know, I'm trying to think how to say this. I appreciate all the comments from everyone, and our position may be colored a little bit by the fact that in Northern California, obviously we haven't been immune from the pandemic, but we have kids who are now in class. They've been in class since August. The schools are even now will accept a foreign exchange student if we could get someone here. So, and in fact, I'll go ahead and tell you that we had 3 students from here who decided that if they could go on exchange for half a year in January, that they would do that. And so it's just in the last 10 days, it's beginning to look like that is actually going to happen. So there are countries where you are able to obtain visas. The students will probably have to quarantine both coming here and going wherever they go. But we're optimistic that by August of next year that students at least will be able to travel, that schools, there will be schools, maybe not all of them, but some schools that will accept students. And so we're just finding those places, those niches, and we're working with the schools and with our partners to our consultants who get visas and make travel arrangements for the kids to see if we can make this happen and not. I mean, I have to say, I mean, I don't want to criticize anyone, and everyone's situation seems to be different locally, but to me, making a decision now about 2021-22, especially a decision to suspend, is premature. That's just my own opinion.
Okay.
Sorry if I can interrupt. Someone suggested polling, and this we are like in elementary here with Zoom and we're just so Fran, I'm Zoom bombing. It's so awesome. We have 153 people online, so it's hopefully popped up on your screen. I'll give you 30 or so more seconds, but please, if you have ideas and you want me to poll, while Fran is moderating, I will be behind the text. So thank you, Christy, for that suggestion. And you can perhaps pick up on these comments, Fran. And if there's anything, panelists, just shout and I'll be behind the scenes doing my thing.
Awesome idea. Awesome idea. Virgilio, did you set criteria?
Yes, the criteria is we need to make everything to maintain the students safe. Is the principal criteria. I don't make anything with the youth exchange. It's like our kids. It's like my daughters and my son. And if I think it's safe to travel, to make an exchange, we will make. If not, we maintain on hold this situation. But I expect the next year, the August, start the exchange. But I'm not sure. It depends for many factors, and we need to take time and wait to resolve this situation.
Okay, thank you. Linda, what was the criteria?
Yeah, so our district went through and we came up with 5 criteria. And the first one was, of course, the travel. So right now, all Canadian citizens are advised to avoid non-essential travel. Obviously, youth exchange is not an essential travel. In the same vein, the inbound students would not be able to come in unless it was essential travel or they had a school that was accepting them. So travel was the first one. The second one was the visa approvals. So again, we went onto our website, and student visas are not being issued for non-essential travel. There are some visas being issued for some international students who are going to schools who have some sort of certification. Right now, none of our high schools have that certification. So the visa has to be available and readily on both sides for inbounds as well as outbounds. The other one was the travel insurance. We did check with our insurer, and travel insurance was covering COVID. So out of our 5, we did get 1 yes. The fourth one was to make sure that the schools would accept the foreign students on both sides. And on our side, we checked with our school districts. They're not accepting foreign students for this year. And a few of them have actually said they're not accepting foreign students for 21-22. So without them accepting foreign students, we can't go ahead again. And then our last one, of course, was to keep the students safe. We wanted to be sure there was some sort of medical treatment, a vaccination, something to make sure that we're not going to send them into a country somewhere where they're not being vaccinated, and we're going to expose them to the virus all over again, and it might be a different mutation. So those were our 5: travel, visa, medical, insurance, and schools.
Okay.
Fran,
Sounds like
can I
a lot.
just, can Can I just ask, we had a question in the chat about insurance that was pretty specifically related about insurance liability. So I'm just perhaps to Linda's comments, if anyone can weigh in for the person who asked the question, what have you found out from your insurance providers on COVID coverage?
I can say at this point, or we're being told it will be covered if it's an issue. It hasn't been excluded as of yet.
Martín?
Ok. Acuérdense que los seguros cubren enfermedades o situaciones, accidentes, y la enfermedad del COVID, cuyo virus es el coronavirus, provoca enfermedades y esas tienen que estar cubiertas.
No.
Eso fue lo que yo platiqué con mi asegurador.
Well, remember that COVID is also, it's something that we cannot control. And right now you get sick for COVID. So right now I already talked with my insurance person and they say we can control it and we can cover this because you get sick for COVID. So right now the insurance is working on that.
Bob?
Just FYI, I spent 33 years in the health insurance business, and I can tell you if they're covering it now, that won't change. They'll continue to make it as a covered illness. So I don't see that as an issue. I mean, I think well, obviously we've done, and I assume everyone else has, the crisis management plan, and amended some of your documents so that it's clear that if a student does contract COVID, what the process is going to be for dealing with that, particularly as it relates to repatriation. So we've done all that. I assume everyone else has too. And I think we, from that standpoint, RI did do some good when they issued those directives. I think that probably needed to be done. We actually already had a crisis management plan in place, and I only had to change a few words really to specifically address the issue of COVID. So, and let me also say, well, I got the floor, and I didn't say it before. I mean, our number one priority, as it is for everyone else, is the safety of the students. I mean, and their well-being. No one is neglecting that, and certainly we aren't. But we still feel that there are going to be opportunities, particularly in 2021-22, for a relatively normal exchange with some countries. Probably not with some others, but with some. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay.
Fran, I was just going to add, I think most of the answers you can see, there's a lot of different answers based upon geographics. And Central States, for example, covers 9 different states in the United States. And I can tell you a lot is different with each school system, even within a state. And a lot of that is leadership. A lot of that is politics. But for example, we're talking about schools, but many of the schools in our area have went back, as Bob was mentioning, but it's almost a weekly occurrence that if so many cases pop up within a school, then all of a sudden the school decides that they're going to go back to virtual, and they may go virtual for 2 or 3 weeks and then they go back to school. So it's really difficult on the school system to even want to try and make a decision for the next year because they're a lot of them are struggling to handle the current year right now.
You said that your timeline right now is February 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why? Why did you?
Well, we tried to figure out,
Just curious.
what we like to call our drop dead date based upon information to make a decision, as well as paperwork and the amount of time that it takes to get paperwork done and completed in time for a student to return home, or I'm sorry, to attend a school. So even on a normal process, it can take 6 weeks for a student to get a visitation at a consulate. And with things happening now, like they are, and of course, we all know visas really are not being issued very much. we are just seeing it is probably if nothing's changed by February 1st, it's probably not going to change anytime soon after that, which is going to mean it's going to be really hard for us to get paperwork done and get a visa and get a kid here and ready to attend school when school starts.
Okay. All right. I can see Bob taking pictures. Bob, do you have a timeline that, you know, are you going to wait until August or?
You know, we're just taking it one step at a time as everyone else is, but our position is that if there's a chance that we can have a semi-normal year in 2021-22, that we should stick as near as we can to our normal schedule, because we have as I'm sure everyone does, I mean, you know, homework, training programs, orientation for the kids, and trying to wait too late to cram that all into you know, into a few weeks, to us is not a good idea. You know, you hate to disappoint the students, but all of us had a lot of disappointed students this year, and we dealt with it, and they're dealing with it. Frankly, I think they're as resilient, if not more resilient, than we are in the long term. And so, you know, we're moving forward and telling students we believe that they're going to be able to go next year, and without making any promises, which we never do anyway. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Martine, do you have a timeline for a go or no go?
Sí, miren, el programa de intercambio siempre es un riesgo. Claro, ahora es mucho mayor el riesgo porque tenemos una pandemia. Aquí,
you know, the exchange program is always a risk. You know, you have a lot of things going on, but right now it's more risky because we have the pandemic. So.
Pero es un riesgo compartido, acuérdense. Es un riesgo compartido desde los padres, los clubes, los distritos, ¿sí? Tanto anfitriones como patrocinadores. Es un riesgo compartido.
So, but I would like to call it as we share this risk, because between the parents, the districts, the counselors, the clubs, we share this risk as a district.
Okay. Con ese criterio, con ese comentario, yo quiero decirles que Rotary cualquier actividad o con las actividades tienen que continuar, y Rotary no es la excepción.
With this comment, all I want to say is that Rotary needs to continue, even with the pandemic.
Y la actividad del programa, tenemos que buscar la manera de cómo hacerlo continuar sin poner en riesgo y que los jóvenes estén a salvo.
And with all these activities, I'm just saying the program must go on, but of course, taking all the safety for our students, it's the most important thing. But we need to see and have the vision to keep working on the program even with the pandemic.
Entonces, aquí la variable importantísima, la variable y hasta en la física es el tiempo.
Well, here the thing that it's gonna like twist and gives the circle is the time, you know, check the time.
Entonces, yo me daría más tiempo, para mí con todo el respeto, pero febrero es muy poquito todavía, yo me daría más tiempo, yo me alargaría más para esperar y tener la confianza que para mayo, por ejemplo, ¿sí? Junio todavía tenemos tiempo.
With all my respect, I will say for me and for my district, February, it's a really short time to see what is going on, what is going to happen. I would like to wait until May or June to see what is going on and how the virus is coming for the next year. I would like to wait a bit longer.
Entonces, para ya tomar una decisión definitiva, yo me esperaría hasta entonces.
So with this, I will say I would like to wait until this time that I already said to make a decision about what is going on for the next year and the exchange program. But of course, always keep working and with this vision.
Okay.
Fran, can I interject and ask a couple questions from the panel, and you can direct it to whomever you'd like. So the first question is, for districts that are accepting and planning on doing interviews, are they doing it before February 1st or waiting until after? So that's the first question. If you are proceeding, when are you planning on interviewing the students? And the second question is, for the districts that are moving forward with the exchange now, how are you going to manage student expectations in case they're unable to go? So if you could work on those two.
Bob, can you address those?
Sure. We're going to interview in 2 weeks as we normally would. You know, I saw that question about student expectation. I mean, that's a tough one for all of us, I know, because all of us want to see these kids have their dreams fulfilled, you know, and going on exchange and having a successful year. But we all dealt with that this year. I mean, hundreds and thousands of students who were unable to go on exchange and had been planning on it for months and months and months. And we've already dealt with that. And I think it's not a pleasant thing to deal with. But as I said, frankly, I think the kids are more resilient than we are. And some of them have, in fact, all the ones that I know from our district just finally accepted it. They weren't happy. And they'll go on with their lives. I mean, just like the rest of us are doing. So I don't, you know, I can see where you could wait to make a decision. And we probably, you know, I say we've already made the decision here, but at the same time, you know, it's probably going to be April, May, even June before we know exactly what 2021-22 is going to look like. And, but at least from our perspective, our kids are going to be ready to go if it can happen. And I think there will be countries, my own personal opinion, I think there will be countries that we will be able to exchange with, maybe not with everybody, but with some. And so that's where we are.
I'm just curious. This question was not given to the panel prior to this, but I'm curious. We all know that we had to cancel the exchange for students for this Rotary year. Have any of the panelists for their districts suggested that the students investigate a new generation's exchange once things open up with those students who couldn't go?
So I can't speak for every district, but I'm not sure that anyone has. I think in our case, a lot of our students were eligible to go out the following year. So I think in answering the previous question, we're moving forward such that you have to have all your paperwork dotted, T's crossed, ready to go February 1st. So if there's any possible chance that the applications are going to start transit between partners. So we do have some new students that have been selected. But we've also had the ones, again, that were unable to go in the previous year. And I'll say, as far as expectations, I think with this current situation, everybody has to have reasonable expectations, and that you don't have any, because if you do, you'll be disappointed. And then we're just telling everyone that we're going to do our best that we possibly can to get you out, but we're still dealing with COVID, and we don't know what's going to happen until it happens.
Okay.
Can I, sorry, Fran, if I can, I'm getting questions. People are writing me on all sorts of ways. So the question is for the two American panelists, and that is, sorry, I should go so I can quote this question accurately. Are other US-based districts, would you send your students to a level 3 or level 4 country despite State Department warnings?
Bob.
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, as I said, safety of the students is paramount. So I think there will be select areas that we'll be able to send students to, and some areas we may not be able to. So okay. No, I'm sure I would not. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't send a student where there was a high probability that that they might become ill. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Okay. Brent?
I'm sorry, I would probably have to agree with Bob. I don't think we're going to do that. Now, at the same time, if we're fortunate enough to ever find a vaccine and have it distributed, and we know that you're protected, I think that might be a different story at some point in time. But at the moment, I would probably say no.
Okay. I guess what I should ask is if one of you could please explain to those who are not Americans what the levels mean when you're talking about a level 3 or a level 4 versus a level 1. Would one of you be willing to explain that to us?
Well, I'll address it a little bit. I mean, in the state of California, and I think everywhere else, it's essentially based on the number of cases, new cases in a set period of time, like the past week, the past month. I think that probably varies a little bit. But if you've had a spike in cases in the last week in California, you're going to the next level, and you're going to have restaurants closed, bars closed, all that stuff. So, and it's, you know, I think it's fluctuated in all the areas of the United States. They've gone from bad to worse and then back to bad. So it depends. Again, it depends on the area. But I don't think it's exactly the same criteria in the U.S. because there's not, in my opinion, been sufficient leadership at the federal level. So the states have basically had to make their own plans from day one. And so the California criteria for you know, closing restaurants or not having indoor dining is different from Ohio, and that's different from Missouri. So
okay.
You know, I would just add, I did a quick Google of level 3 travel advisory, and the travel advisories are actually put together by what we call our CDC, or Centers for Disease Control. And looking at the map at the moment, let's just say 99% of the world is a level 3. There is 2 or 3 little yellow dots, which happen to be a level 2. It's a moderate risk. And the rest is either no data available or it's a level 3 at this point.
And sorry to interrupt, Mike just messaged me that he had some information on the levels, so I added him as a panelist quickly to address this, and then I'll let Fran get back on track. Mike?
Thanks, Pauline. Yeah, I was the one who asked the question, and I was not actually, it's a bit confusing because the CDC has levels of concerns as well, but I was actually talking about the State Department, the US State Department evaluates, completely separate from COVID, evaluates every country in the world about how safe it is for Americans to go there on a 4-point scale, 1 being no concerns, 2 being exercise concerns or exercise normal precautions, level 3 being seriously reconsider travel if it's non-essential, and 4 is absolutely do not travel. At the moment, every country that the USA exchanges with the exception of 2, is either a level 3 or a level 4 country. And if you read the details, it says if an American should need State Department support while traveling, if you're in a level 3 or level 4 country, the State Department cannot guarantee that they will be able to help you. So at the moment, the only 2 countries that we exchange with that are not a level 3 or level 4 State Department warning are Taiwan and Thailand. Now, in our district governors have said they would not support the risk of encouraging a student to go to a level 3 or level 4 country. So that was a big criteria for us, and I was just curious if other USA districts consider that criteria. Now, of course, we're hoping if things change with health planning in the US, or maybe after the change of administration, some of the countries may get reevaluated, but at the moment, there are only 2 countries that are not level 3 or level 4 warnings at the moment.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate the clarification. Pauline, do we have any other questions?
Just if I could just say one more thing, I put the link to the explanation in the chat. The link to the explanation is in the chat.
Yeah, other question I have here sitting is from Kelly Adams, and are in addition to those who are planning to move forward, are you interviewing students virtually and doing your orientation training sessions virtually? What are your thoughts there?
Martine, could you address that, please?
Ok. Yes. Ya estamos dando capacitaciones y en la capacitación que dimos a los clubes de nuestro distrito, donde estuvieron presentes todos los coordinadores y todos los YEOs y alguno que otro presidente.
Well, right now we're already like having workshops. Actually, we had the certification of the clubs, and we were all the district committee with skill working, and we started with this idea as a virtual, virtual with Zoom, with all the conference online.
Para poderlos certificar. Y además también les explicamos sobre el tema del COVID y de los planes que nos solicita Rotary Internacional, que debemos de tener los distritos y los clubes, las familias, para poder en un momento dado, ¿sí? Si las circunstancias se nos ponen a nuestro favor, recibir estudiantes y mandar estudiantes.
Actually, we talk about all the COVID situation, how we're going to get to work with this. And as long as they get the certification, they need to realize this year, with the pandemic, we're going to work online, and we're going to have these workshops online to get in the work of the exchange program.
Acuérdense que un comentario más nada más.
One more comment about this.
Es el programa de intercambio de Rotary Internacional sí ha tenido factores, ¿sí? O depende de muchos factores, ustedes lo saben muy bien, la cuestión económica, la cuestión de los tsunamis, de los huracanes, la cuestión de la seguridad, del terrorismo. Para allá voy. O di lo que dije.
Yeah, but one more comment. I'm sorry, I had a problem with the microphone. But what I was saying is that, Rotary has always have a plan for the situations, even an earthquake or different situations that have happened along through these years.
Entonces, ahora hay que sumar esto de la pandemia. Por lo tanto, tenemos que capacitar, ¿sí? Teniendo con esta situación, ¿de acuerdo?
Well, right now we need to plus the pandemic as a problem. So that's why we need to have workshops like this, online, and keep preparing the people, around Rotary and the exchange program, get ready for this, that we need. And here in Mexico, we are working, virtual, and we think this is the future of the exchange program.
Thank you.
Brent, what are you doing for your interviews and orientations? Are you going virtual?
I think there's a mixture going on. I know a lot of things are virtual, but I think the other problem is many of us are, as we are calling it, Zoom fatigue. We're tired of doing Zoom, and we like to have some real live interaction. And as much as I like the idea of potentially having the virtual exchanges, there is nothing that can replace a student being in country and learning a language and being immersed. And it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, sure. Pauline, do we have any other questions?
I was busy looking at a whole bunch of other things. I'm just going to end the polling here on virtual exchange. Let me go over to the Q&A and see. Share results on the virtual. I think that's all the questions, unless there's anyone who wants to type in. And I do want to say that we are going to put a link in for another Zoom chat that will go back to back. So if you actually want to be put in small breakout groups, see each other's faces, chat for another half an hour, Fran and I are going to exit out of this afterwards. So well, I'll just put it in the chat right now. So it's another, or Shannon just did. I'll do it again. But I don't see, oh, I do have another question. Let's go see. Sarah says, I'm not sure what is meant by virtual exchange. Does anyone on the panel want to tackle that? Sarah Patterson wants to know what is meant by virtual exchange.
Anybody on the panel want to address that?
Well, I'll say something simply because I asked John Ketz for his information and what they were doing, and you know, essentially it seems to be lasting about 3 months. Students are being paired. That is a student paired with a student in another district, and they get, and host families are involved, and activities are planned for the students to do, and they have to complete them, and the host families are responsible, as I understand it, for making sure that the activities are completed, and those would be things related to learning the culture of each other's countries, and also the language. So it's an effort to duplicate some of the exchange experience virtually. I mean, I gotta agree with Brent. There's no substitute for being there. And we talked about virtual exchanges, but only in the context of maybe having students do it if it's going to be possible for them to still go on a real exchange. So they might communicate with their host family for a few months ahead of time and do some activities, and then go on a real exchange and see them in person. So that's the only context in which we've considered doing virtual exchanges, but I think we would do them, you know, in that event.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Pauline?
I'm just looking at the things in the chat. There's lots of people asking if they can get a copy of the chat, because the chat's been active. I don't know if, as panelists, if you've been watching it or just focused on the panel, and I haven't caught everything as well. So there's a lot of technology limitations that you're asking us for that I don't think Zoom. So I don't think there's a copy of the chat available. Shannon's just, well, here's Shannon, our tech gal. She says, you can select all and save it yourself. Thank you, Shannon, to the rescue. I've seen some requests for us to repeat this session maybe in January, February, where there's a pulse. If you've missed it, there is a new United States President, Joe Biden, was officially announced, if you're not following in the chat. So there's changes abound, right? So I think what we'll do, I'm just seeing there's no, I have one more Q&A. Let me go see here. Chris Perluck asked, is there a common concern about the cost and safety concerns that next year district governors will want to know? Guaranteed vaccinations, program budgeting, how are districts handling that today? So again, the question is there a common concern about the costs and safety concern that next year district governors will want to know? I'll turn that over to you, Fran.
Okay. Rogelio, would you like to comment on that?
Yes. I think about the exchange, we need to wait, and the virtual it's very good programs, I think, but it's not the same. But about the exchange, we need to take time. We need to not push a lot to make the change the next year. I think about the safety in the other regions. It's complicated to analyze each district, each country, each city, and I need to carry out about my city, my district, my people, my families, and my students. And I believe in the other district make the same, and we need to wait, and when we are ready, we will do it. Virtual exchange, it's an option, but right now I don't think it's the best option.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking at this poll, if anyone would attend this discussion again in January or February.
Fran, do you mind if I chime in on the costs and things?
Please do.
Okay, well, there's a few things you were asking about in the new generations exchange. Would we send some of our kids that way? And I think in our district, I believe we've got someone who was talking to the older kids on that. But the other thing on that point is we have a lot of interest in Interact now in the high schools. So our clubs, if they're not able to do the youth exchange, we've sort of encouraged them to look at Interact and try and start up new Interact programs, which eventually will help us on our exchange programs, knowing we always have trouble recruiting. Well, we have trouble recruiting, you may not. As for the costs, we're doing a survey in our district, twofold. One, we would pass that on to our DG, but we've not been asked by our DG whether that's something we should be looking at.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'm looking at the time here, and I'm thinking perhaps it's, oh, I'm sorry, Martín, did you want to weigh in on that?
Ok. Sí, primero que nada, pues agradecerles a Fran y a Paulina esta atenta invitación. Me parece muy interesante y muy importante para darle seguimiento a esta situación que nunca se nos había presentado en el programa de intercambio y solicitarles, o primero comentarles que todos aquí, todos los chairs y chairwoman y chairman de México, tenemos reuniones cada 15 días precisamente para abarcar todos los temas del programa de intercambio, para tener un solo criterio que es muy importante ahorita la unión.
Well, first of all, I would like to say and thank you to Pauline and my friend Fran for this space, you know, to get to work and see how are the different, you know, criteria about the pandemic and what is going on. It's so interesting for me, and it's so important that we all know what we think about the situation. And I would like to say that here, you know, as District 4140, I would like to say all the chairwomen and all the chairmen in Mexico, we are meeting every 15 days to see what we think about it and to keep working. You know, it's so important to see everyone has different, you know, opinions about what is going on, but we want to have one criteria for the best of the exchange program. So right now we're working to have a criteria that about this situation that we never experienced before. So,
y pedirles, solicitarles que ojalá lo hagamos más seguido. Yo sé que es complicado, pero el programa de intercambio lo requiere más en estas circunstancias de la pandemia.
And I think it's a great idea, you know, have meetings, you know, with our Canadian families and friends, you know, Rotary clubs from the US. I think it's very important to have these meetings every once in a while. I know it can be complicated, but I think it's important to see how we're thinking about the pandemic and how we can help each other, you know, to get through it, you know, as a family and as America that we are.
Y pues ojalá que todos los que nos están viendo, que veo que son como 150, 160 compañeras y compañeros, también podrán en sus países hacer un panel como este para intercambiar impresiones, experiencias, a ver cómo nos podemos ir acomodando para tener programa de intercambio 21-22. Muchas gracias.
Well, last, I would like to say that, you know, as I said before, it's so amazing that we have these workshops and just, you know, talks about what we think. And also I'm seeing that there's a lot of people that they're right now with us, that it will be so cool. In other countries, they have these workshops that they split their experience and what they think about the pandemic. So every single day, this can be a big thing. So thank you very much. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you all.
Thank you, Martín. Well, I am looking at the time and thinking it's probably time that we all either went out to the beautiful weather that you have or go to bed, depending on where you are. Or in our case, I think we're just going to hunker down in front of the fireplace, as it is a bit chilly here today. I would really like to thank all of the panelists. I so appreciate your time, your input, sharing of ideas. That's what this is all about. and the attendees. I thank you so very much for taking time out of your day, night, afternoon, particularly those from all the different time zones. It's wonderful. Pauline, thank you so very much for helping with this. And I think I can probably say adios.
And I just want to I threw in the link. The discussion continues. We have another Zoom link you have to hop on to get into breakout groups. People have asked to want to talk to people face to face. It's totally unstructured. Shannon's going to take over on that side. So if you'd want to unmute yourselves and see all these faces and get into breakout rooms, it's probably only going to be another half an hour. So should you be passionate about this topic, head over there. And Fran, thank you for doing a great job today.
Thank you. Everyone have a wonderful day or good night.
Adiós. Buenas noches.